Yes.
Deze is hartstikke awesome Jeff.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss, and welcome back for part 2. We got the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who had everyone talking last week, my friend, Richard Plowden. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, guys. Thank you guys for having me back. Feeding
thank
our addiction.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey,
No
we're
lies were told.
blessed. Yes, we are blessed to have you back. Thank you for joining us. I know it takes some time, so
End of the night.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, how is everything? I know there's been a lot. We don't bring up all the bad stuff. So
No, we're not going to talk about pro football, so
no,
we'll just skip over that.
that's right. That's right. And you and I, we were talking a little bit about Royal Rumble and just different things, but we both watched that Saturday night.
Yep, sure did.
And I enjoyed I like that they're going to Saturdays some, especially when there's big events like Sunday and stuff, with football and everything. So
yeah.
Alex doesn't understand the pro wrestling thing that we do, I don't think. So
No, that's not it.
He wants to say the right thing.
yeah, I know.
That's not it. It's not that I don't understand it. I do understand it. I just have to allocate the amount of time and energy I have into. And quite honestly, you really want to know the truth about it is that I'm pretty sure I would get addicted.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
it's
sure.
like that. You're smart man.
And for, I would say, probably a decade, when everybody was talking, this is fantasy football, and I'm like, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to get into it because that sounds like something I would get addicted to.
And it's very addicting, but it's something that I think both Jeff and I began watching in our youth.
Yes,
and that's what reeled us in. And me being much older than Jeff, I started watching professional wrestling in the late 60s. So,
right.
It's been part of my DNA since then. And my father hated it. My dad couldn't stand it. But I introduced my nephews, Eugene and Travis, to it. Actually, Travis and I went to Halloween Havoc when WCW had Halloween Havoc. We went there here. Sonny Ono got me tickets.
That's awesome.
Travis and I went and hung out. But it's,
Yeah. Good evening, Will. Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I say I got into martial arts was, my favorite wrestler was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and, he was huge in this area. What's funny is that, like, I hear when people first start watching wrestling or whatever, most people say about that 7 or 8. That was when I first stopped watching wrestling. Was like I don't remember not watching wrestling as a kid. Like, I think from like 2 until like 8 was when I was full into it. And they're like, wait a minute, you were watching wrestling at 2? Hey, somehow. I mean, I went to a live show and saw Wahoo McDaniel and all these guys in Lynchburg, in Mid-Atlantic, and Jim Crockett Promotions came. So it was a lot. It's just that thing. And obviously, if you don't realize, like, if you don't pick it up from what I do, like, you obviously see the pro wrestling influence in my form. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about that though, Jeff, is you were saying like, oh, that's when I kind of stopped, watching, was around that age. What's funny is you remember geographically where I was from, like in Minnesota, that's wrestling. I remember around the time when I really got deep, I'm like, all right, karate is my life. This is what I'm doing. I've been doing it maybe like a year. That's when I stopped watching wrestling. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, in the 80s, everybody did. In the 80s, you wrestled and watched wrestling and played hockey. That's what you did, right?
Up there. Yeah. It's true. It's true.
Basketball wasn't as good then. So
Yeah,
it's essentially what it came down to.
Yeah.
Well, here in Detroit, we didn't. In my neighborhood, we didn't play hockey. Not a basketball, baseball, football.
Yes, sir. Oh man. All right. So, sir, Mr. Plowden, last we left off at was the end of SES, and then also ending just the everything that was going on with you guys in the NBL, right? And we talked about that. We talked about moving forward, and really that next thing was the WSKF venture, and what led to that. I mean, we kind of know what led to that, but how did that happen? What are the things you learned from that too, moving forward?
Question, Jeff. The whole WSKF thing came about because the promoters and myself, because remember, I wasn't a promoter with NBL, at least not a national promoter. I had a regional event, but we got together and decided to leave, and they asked me if I would be the quote unquote president of the WSKF. The challenge was we had so many different personalities, and we were not really on the same page as far as moving forward. Okay. Different people had their own agendas, and with me being the president, I had this person in my ear saying this person in my ear saying this, talking about each other and things like that. And it really became kind of cumbersome for me, because understand, again, I didn't have a tournament. So right. I wasn't making money off of the endeavor. And then when it came down to me going to events as the president, my hotel and flights, everybody wasn't cool about taking care of me.
Care of it. Wow.
Right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So being the president cost you money.
It could have, but what I did, Alex, one thing we did was try to establish regions, right? Mm-hmm. So what I did was instead of segmenting out individual regional tournaments, I went to different regional circuits, and I said, "Listen, if you pay us a sanctioning fee for the circuit, your champions will qualify for the WSKF World Championships." And being blunt with you guys, at one point in time, we had about 10 to 12 national circuits under our banner.
Yeah,
right.
That was
Each
huge.
one of those. Yeah, and the licensing fee, I charged $750 for the licensing fee per circuit. So that was some money that I was generating, but it was still me assisting the organization, and things just fell apart. Right. I decided, I said, okay, if they're not paying for me to go to this particular event, I just decided to stay home.
Right.
Well, if it doesn't make any sense. If it's just going to cost you money and then you don't have the full support, at one point you have to say, what are we doing here?
Well, that's what happened with me. Listen, I'm gullible. I love the activity, but I just, man, I had a wife and family I couldn't be taken advantage of like that. If I'm going to an event that's part of our circuit, then we're going to go ahead and take care of the president at least. So that, and everyone was not against that, let's say. To this day, I consider John Sharkey to be one of my best friends. And John has always really looked out for Richard Plowden. So John, Jennifer Robles, Barbie Dickinson, there were some folks that were on board. Bob and Mark were fun to work with, actually.
Mm-hmm. So Andrew was saying on paper, the WSKF was a great concept. The first Worlds at the 2004 AKA was well attended, where you had the best from NASCAR and NBL under one roof. He felt like
that was a really good year for martial arts.
It was great. It was just our inability to really plan, work together, and look forward as a unit. And that's one of the reasons. And you just asked this, what did I learn, Jeff? Boyce being a dictator was not all bad.
Right.
It really wasn't, because somebody has to put their foot down and say, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the direction we're going in. And, that's that. Just really quickly, Robert Hilton, I don't think age has anything to do with it. I think that it's wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the whole thing, because a lot of young people will make stupid mistakes, and based on wisdom of those of us who are a little bit older, we aren't not necessarily as emotional, don't make snap judgments and that type of thing. And all things evolve. So
Yep.
you know that age question will take care of itself, Rob, because most of us at some point in time we leaving here.
I'm really glad you brought that comment up. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
want to address that
Yeah,
comment
me
at some
too,
point.
Yeah,
And it's not about, do we need younger people? We just need the smarter people.
yeah, that's
And
it.
so which is exactly what you said.
Passion.
And you know what? It's
Yeah.
not always younger. It's ones that also aren't completely burnt out. So fresh blood doesn't always mean younger blood. It just means someone who's not burnt out from it all. You know what I mean? I think there's a
I
lot
know,
of,
and it's hard because we have, some of our close friends that we have decades of experience with. They'll go from having an amazingly energetic event, and then the next one where they're at, you could just tell, like, man, they're tired, right?
Oh yeah,
And it's like you feel bad because you don't want to be like, maybe sit this one out, because in the next one they're right back, and it's like it's really kind of it's a fine line. It's really hard to really manage, and
so.
I don't know how you're not burnt out.
Well,
Jeff.
But I mean, like, I'm not putting a tournament on anymore. You know what I mean? At one point, I thought I never saw myself not having a tournament. And then now I'm at this point where I don't know if I see myself having another one. It's just one of those
Jeff,
things.
let me ask you this: are you having fun?
Yes, I'm having so much fun.
That's it. Listen, the only reason to compete in sport karate is to have a good time, is to have fun.
Yep.
Okay. There's nobody that's making a ton of money doing this stuff. Nobody that's buying multi-million-dollar homes or any of that. So it's got to be an activity, again, going back to that P word, that you're passionate about. It's not something where you think, man, I'm going to go to these tournaments and win a ton of grand championships. Well, what's the most you're going to win?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And today, let me say this too. This is somewhat a controversial statement, but today we don't have real sponsors. No. So, you can count on one hand, well, just a few fingers. The main sponsors, with Paul Mitchell leading the way, haven't been around now for the last 30 plus, 30 plus years. But they take care of their competitors. And there's so many quote unquote sponsors who are out here just giving a uniform and people taking it and happy to get it. Man, I got a uniform. Well, your school uniform. That's my attitude. But anyway, I digress.
Well, no, you're not wrong. And it is fun to be a part of a group of people that wants you to be a part of them. And there are other reasons too, but I agree with that statement that you made. Yeah. And I think Paul Mitchell might have been, like, it's almost 40 years they've been around.
Yeah.
But
late 1980s.
You brought up all the team last week. You brought up all the teams that you were a part of and the sponsorships that they really gave to you guys. And those were sponsorships for largely that didn't have anything to do with martial arts.
No, that's correct. As I said, there's never been someone who wrote such a compelling document that a company said, man, I want to sponsor the sport karate stuff. Nobody's done that. Right? It's always been someone who knew someone, and then they get a little bit of it. Like I said, with SES, we got a little bit of something. With Transworld Oil and Atlantic, we got a little bit of something. And when I say little bit, I mean it wasn't sustaining. It wasn't long term. But what it did was it introduced the idea of teams. We have to understand there's a difference between being on the team and being sponsored.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge difference.
Yes,
I can say that since 1985, every team I've been involved with sponsored people, right? Morgan Plowden and Avery Plowden have never been part of a team where they weren't taken care of. Right. You can't come to me and say, well, we're going to give you a uniform and put 12 people in a hotel with you, and then everything else is on you. That's not professional.
No.
Right.
Exactly.
There are times where it could make sense for an individual to join a team with no sponsorship because they just like those people and want to be a part of that team. There are times where that could make some sense. It could, right?
You
But
would have
don't-
to educate me on that at some point in time in a private conversation.
Yeah. And there are times, but you can be sponsored without being on a team.
Yes.
Oh,
You
listen,
don't need
you
a
look at
team.
other sports.
Yep.
Look at other sports. Nike sponsors a ton of tennis players who aren't necessarily teammates, you know,
Yes.
who will fight each other to the death on the tennis court.
Right.
You know, so that you are absolutely right.
Yep.
That's what, you know, listen. Although let me say this though. I love the way Joe Greenhall takes care of his people. Let me say that before I make this statement, right? But you have a guy like Bailey Murphy, intelligent, articulate, a company that just wanted to come in and pay for him. And Bailey's traveling the world right now. You know, to pay for him to do that and represent their company will be phenomenal.
Yep.
You know, that would be fantastic. But we can't name 15 athletes like that. Right?
No.
Bailey's an anomaly. Bailey's special.
Yep.
Right.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So, and I think, well, what he is marketable.
Yes, that's my point. That's it.
He's marketable.
Yes.
And there's other guys throughout the years that have been very marketable that I believe didn't take full enough advantage of their situation, of the situation that they could have had. Because for most of us, unless your name is Jeff Doss, you have a finite amount of years where you can actually compete. Right?
Yeah, but Alex, you know, understand this. Martial arts schools, and oh man, you're a prime example as I think about it. Martial arts schools in the 1970s were not really professionally run, right?
Okay. Yeah.
The goal of martial arts school owners back then was not that everybody becomes a black belt. We are a black belt school. It was to weed out those folks who weren't tough enough to become black belts, right?
Yes.
But
yes.
what happened was educational funding company came into the martial arts industry in the 1970s and took June Reed's system, business systems, and marketed them to martial artists worldwide or nationwide. So we go to tournaments and they have a booth set up where they talk to different instructors and encourage them to join their organization from a billing and a marketing standpoint. And one of the things that they did was say, hey, leave that tournament stuff alone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The tournaments aren't, that's not where you're going to make their money. So they brought in marketing principles and things to the school ownership that tournaments never had. We've never had individuals come into tournaments and say, let's look at this from a marketing as far as the marketing plan goes, right? That really hasn't happened. So we sit back and we try to copy other things and that type of thing, but we don't have marketing professionals selling the stuff. Charlie Lee told me years ago when he was president of NASCA, and you know, I don't care. He sat back and told me that
you don't care. Whoa.
He approached and I'm going to say this.
He's going to say it.
He approached the NASCA board and he wanted each promoter, I think, to give up 10 grand.
I did hear about this.
To hire a marketing company.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? To market NASCA. The majority of promoters said no.
Right.
They wanted to keep the 10 grand in their pocket as opposed to trying to open up the activity and expose more people to it with marketing minds, not karate minds.
Correct.
But marketing minds.
Yep. Murphy says, hey.
That's my man, Murphy Gonzalez. What's happening? The big event coming up that is affiliated with the WKC. Good luck with it, Murph.
Sir. All right. So
that's such a sad thing though with Charlie because he's such a smart mind and they didn't utilize him enough. And so then they lost him. I mean, in the amount of time that he had like major influence on the martial arts competition world, right? he did a lot of great things with that.
Yeah. He did.
Still, that have not been repeated to this day.
Charlie Lee's a very smart man. And what's his profession?
He's a lawyer.
Well,
He's an attorney. Yeah, he's
Yep.
a smart guy. Right. But, you know, you're an attorney over here. You're a sport karate promoter over here. Where's his bank really going to be?
right.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things too that he did. A lot of people don't even know that he did that. You know, that was Charlie. That you know, certain things with the rules and certain, like there's so many things that he did, and just how involved he was. You know, I think a lot of people don't realize that. You know, especially now thinking, well, it was all, well, he's not around anymore. You know, so very interesting. All right. So now that let's see. So after WSKF, where does everything, everything card starts changing, like.
Yeah, I took a bit of a hiatus after WSKF because I was burned out. I was ticked off a little bit, took a bit of a break, and there was one of these websites that was up. Was it Point Fighter before it hit Facebook? But
Yeah,
one of those
it was
websites.
like
Yeah,
pointfighter.org or something.
There were a number of us crazy people who would go on there and talk and say things and this, that, and the other. And Garth Benz and I started talking through that, right?
Okay.
And I had a tournament coming up. Garth came here to my tournament with he brought Troy, Mariel Gonzalez, a couple of other people. And he got a chance for the first time to see a teenage Morgan Plowden and a young Avery Plowden. And actually Morgan beat Marielle that day. Morgan won my grand, and she was still a teenager. And Garth talked to me and said, "Man, I'd like for her to be on Team Victory." And then he said, "Well, I'd like for you to coach Team Victory." So the event, the diamonds that I mentioned, where Larry Carney, or well, not Larry, but John Worley said, "Welcome back, Richard Plowden." That was my first event with Team Victory and the great Garth Benz. Garth does not get enough credit.
No,
he's done
for what he did as far as running a team and coaching. Let me say this as part of that, and some people might dispute it, but it's definitely factual. With Paul Mitchell, Paul was the first time that I went to Ireland. And there was a gentleman named Pat White who had a tournament over in Ireland that we competed on Saturday. Then we flew to England and competed on Sunday, right? So Paul Mitchell was my introduction to Ireland back then. But as a coach, I took SES I was the first American to take a team to the Irish Open with SES, right? Then Garth, we took Victory over to Ireland. So that was before many of these other big teams decided to do that. Although the year that we took Victory, Paul Mitchell was there.
Right.
Didn't Victory win like the men's team fighting championship then too?
I can't.
I know they have a title. I don't remember exactly the year.
Well, I think the 1 year, because I think Nate was still fighting then when he went over there. Nate Windsor, and I think Raymond kind of was a part of that. Like they
might have been like 02 or 03, something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, but yeah, lots of cool history there, and that's so true. Like, go ahead.
So with Garth and with Victory, we had a good run. There was Sam Simeon, El Java. It was Justin Jones. We had a decent team, but then Jason Chin started talking to me, right? And Jason's thing was that with his company, he had one team with the All-Stars, and he wanted to broaden his reach because it was one team you could reach so many. You broaden your reach, you could have multiple teams, you can reach more. So we were the first team that he talked to after the All-Stars about being becoming part of his organization, let's say. And Jason was a wonderful sponsor. That dude was just great. Gave us everything we asked for and more.
A lot of money.
Oh, he was just a good dude. So I love Jason Chin, but with that, he didn't want the name to be Victory. Some of my personnel, just being blunt, didn't want the name to be Victory. So we came up with Impex, which is the name of a company that Jason owns. That's his import-export business.
Right.
Checks out, just like other companies.
That's right.
CJB, same type of thing.
Yep.
All right.
Well, Spencer Arrington was a great coach with CJB. Fantastic. But it's always someone you know. Until we can write that stellar proposal and get a company to come in and invest in tournaments and or invest in a team, we're going to always be stagnant.
Right. Because Spencer did over 10 years. You know, he had that 9-year run and then a couple years off and came back for 2 years. And then, you know, Jason Chin, same thing, well over 10 years, you know. So yeah, I mean, you know, like these guys just, you know, they help keep our sport alive, right?
Yes, they have.
You know, so it's been great. There's so many, you know, and at that point, it started a trend of ASG teams, you know, and really that was when the equipment blew up and got bigger. Yeah. So it made sense.
The more people wearing it, the more people see it, the more affiliates there are. So it was, you know, it was great on Jason's part. And I love my relationship with Jason Chin. Let me say this though. Telling stories. When Jason first approached me about it, he went and talked to the All-Stars. And Raymond called me.
All right.
He said, don't do a separate team. Let's just merge. And I said, that's not in my best interest because I have over here, I have Hugh and Raymond. Then I have me. Right? That's a 3-headed monster. That's really a 2-headed monster with me just going along for the ride, as opposed to me having my own team and doing things my way. So I turned that offer down from Raymond.
Interesting.
I think it worked out best for both of you.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think so.
I do too. And our activity needs healthy rivalries.
Yes.
And you definitely had it.
You have Jody Tinchin and the great Russ Levine on one hand. You have Raymond Daniels and Jack Felton on the other hand. It's great for a healthy rivalry.
And it was and really like everyone was reaching their peak at the same time, you know, like Jody was getting so popular with starting all those seminars, all the YouTube videos that he was putting out with teaching people drills and things. He was getting popular without even competing. And then it's like, hey, we're finally going to bring him back.
Yeah, I had to beg Jeff. He'll tell you. I would cuss him out. I begged, you know, call him on the phone. I'm like, man, listen, my philosophy again, and having a team, I'm saying I need that veteran leadership. Right. Yeah. And then I was able to have Ross in his ear too. So we pulled him along and it worked out. And then I was so fortunate that even after Jody retired, Jason Grenier fell into my lap.
Yeah.
And Jason and Verona were two fantastic pickups. Like, man, what, you know, how lucky can the guy be?
Right.
And Jason is one of the nicest. Grenier. Jason is one of the nicest.
He is.
Most successful, goofiest fighters in the face of the world. That, oh my gosh. I've had some battles with that guy.
Outstanding businessman, too. Yeah, you beat him in Chicago one year.
Oh, you know what's so funny? You know what's funny? You bring it up. Let's just make a quick little snippet. I was Hamid Feruzzi one year. We were fighting for like a heavyweight grand championship, right? And he's like, man, Alex, everything you want to do, it's harder to do against Jason. I'm like, yeah, nobody looks good fighting Jason. Like nobody has an easy fight against Jason Grenier. Right. Yes. So it's and how many times and you put Jason Grenier as an anchor against Raymond multiple times, right? Because it's not easy to fight that guy.
Oh,
Jason beats me. And then I just one time I'm like, oh, I got it. I know what to do. And I had this strategy that in my mind, I'm like, if it works once, I think I got him. And it worked and I got him. But then the funniest part was like the following year, we fight each other again at AKA, and he saw what my strategy was to try and do it again. And he's just in the goofiest way, looks right at me in the fight, just gives me this.
That's him.
And I think he even like waved his hand at me. And I about started dying laughing in the ring and then got beat.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. After you beat him, I gave him hell. That's why I remember it.
Well, yeah, we had some fun fights. You know, I got him a few times. He got me a few times. What a great guy. But like you said, it fell into your lap. Like, how does this happen? Oh, and by the way, there was this other guy, Richard Plowden. Like,
then,
oh, man.
Yeah.
Well,
how was that hard?
Morgan, like,
he
for
literally
your guys'
fell into my lap.
relationship at all?
Was what?
Was that hard for your guys' relationship at all?
Me and Avery?
Yeah, just curious.
Not at all. I honestly, the funny thing is this, and we just had a local tournament this weekend that neither Morgan or Avery competed in, but we had to talk afterwards, and they were just saying that they think their successes were part of their success was they never questioned me. If I sat back and said, do this, they do it. Right? Do this, they do it. Whereas and Jody says the same thing, to be blunt with you. Jody says, well, you know, I'm one of the only students that ever listened. You know, but that's part of it. So with that, and I'm blessed enough that my kids adore me. So I've never had an argument with my kids.
Right.
You know,
whoa. What did you say?
We've never had it. We've had debates. Like Avery got a couple of 4 rides to law school that he didn't want to take. Right? No, Dad, I want to go to a prestigious law school. I want to go to Harvard or, you know, something like that. That's what I want to get into. And I said, son, let me ask you this. What law school did Johnny Cochran go to? He said, I don't know. I said, yeah, but you know Johnny Cochran, and he made a lot of money, right? You get that law degree, and then you make that law degree work. And he debated with me about it, but now he comes and apologizes often and says, man, I don't have that law school debt. I am so happy. You know, so that's Alex, in answer to your question with relationship to martial arts, the only problem I had was when he was a junior and he would lose, he would cry. And, you know, part of that, of course, was pressure. You know, he had me, he had Travis, you know, there was some pressure there. But other than that, no.
Now, that, I mean, honestly, you know, to me, there's so many great things about Impex, but the greatest thing that came out of that to me is just the legacy of you know, and of Morgan and Avery, you know, because really, like, them being around, of course, you is there, but then you put them around some other people as well, and to really show them that, hey, they're listening to me too, right?
Yeah.
Like, working and you know what, like, they need other people outside of their school to grow, like you did, right? You had so many other people.
Oh, come on, man. Steve Anderson, Anthony Price, Willie Blanks, Terry Creamer. We'd sit in a hotel room and talk techniques.
Exactly.
Right. Wow. We had training camps together. I can say we mentioned Mike Geneva in the reverse punch last week. When I used to throw my reverse punch, I would pick up my front leg first and then go. Right. And because I'm long, I had a little bit of speed. I could hit most people with it. But what would happen was, and Steve told me this. He said, when I lift my leg, him and Billy start the reverse punch because they know what's coming.
They know it's coming,
right?
Yeah.
So if they don't beat me to the punch, we get a clash. So then I started working on pushing off my back leg with a reverse punch, change my game.
Wow.
But if I was not teammates with them,
exactly,
I would not have gotten that. Keith McKinley, Philadelphia's great fighter, Keith McKinley has said to me often that in the 1980s, those of us who were on Atlantic and Trans World Oil, we kept everything to ourselves. Mm-hmm. We didn't share it with the rest of the martial arts community. And he's right.
Yeah.
You know, there were different training techniques, different sparring techniques and things that we didn't put out there.
Right.
We held it in, and unfortunately, just to be honest with you guys, that's part of what the industry's problem is now. Is there some of us that know how to do this stuff,
Yeah.
but the masses don't, so the
Oh.
masses won't.
Right.
Right?
Right.
They don't know
Yeah.
how, so they won't it. So they'll just stay in their caves. One of my mentors, Grandmaster David Prame, likes to call them cave dwellers. So they'll stay in their caves.
Yep.
They'll be cave dwellers, and they won't grow. And that's part of the problem with the sport now. You have folks who are up here, and then the folks that are down here from a fighting standpoint.
You mentioned something about them, about the masses not knowing everything. I remember an interview that Jody had with somebody. This is probably a decade ago, and talked about, like why the younger fighters just aren't getting it, why they're just not progressing the way that they were in years past. And he had a really interesting take that he thought that, instructors are just teaching them to be good enough to be to be their employees and instructors
inside the school.
But I think he's right. But I also think maybe that's all those instructors know.
It is.
Yeah.
So maybe they actually can't make them champions. There are plenty of people that just are being taught by people who just cannot be made champions. Mike Welch said he had no coach. Mike Welch said, no, we just had to figure this stuff out on our own. Right.
Yep.
And that's hard for forms to just figure stuff out on your own. Just like, I just watched videos and figured it out. Just went to tournaments and just saw what everybody else was doing and figured I could just do that too. Like, that's really hard to do. But there are some of us who do it. And Mike Welch is a great coach.
Somebody's going to pick up and steal this before I have a chance to roll it out, which will be soon. But different martial arts seminars and camps need to have a coaching section.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to have a section for how you talk to your competitors, how you prepare them for competition and that type of thing. Because so many of us don't know how to talk to people.
Right.
I tell my competitors, I can't want you to win more than you want to win. Right? Mm-hmm. So when we understand that, that's they're already putting pressure on themselves. So now I'm going to sit in the coach's chair and scream and yell at a pressure-ridden competitor. That's going to take their anxiety to another level. But these coaches sit there and they yell and scream, go! Right. Faster! Harder! Right. What the hell are you telling them? You're not giving them any strategy or anything. Your voice is way up here, so you're making them more erratic. That doesn't work. Yeah. I make an attempt to coach in a calm voice so that when I raise my voice,
it's heard.
Means something.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It has a meaning.
Yeah.
It's funny. So you weren't there. You weren't at AKA this year. So
no.
I mean, there's no way you don't know everything already because it's just kind of what it is. You have ESP when it comes to this stuff anyway. But I'm going to tell you what I saw firsthand that you didn't get to see. So there was a couple of coaches that I'm just like, oh, please stop talking. Just stop. You're actually making this worse. You're making this way worse. And not just the screaming go, because sometimes people do need energizers, right? That's okay. That does have some value at times. That's okay. But like, no, what you're actually telling them to do is wildly irresponsible, right? So there's things like that. Then I noticed so someone came up to me and I was like, and they were like, hey, how'd you think I did? It was in the women's, it might have been the women's open weight. And I was like, I'm not gonna say who it was, but I was like, you had yourself in a really good position to win. But listen, don't listen to your coach. Just straight up don't. I'm not gonna say who it was, right?
No.
But I'm like,
just you tell me off air.
Yeah, I'll tell you off air. Right. And now here's what happened. Now at that point, like right as I was saying that, Mina walks right by and I stopped her and I go, and you had great coaching and didn't listen to your coach because I heard everything your coaches were saying and you didn't do it. And then she won the next day. Right. But it was like perfect because because Morgan was in the chair and Avery's like
Avery's,
back,
yeah.
like on a chair, like way in the other ring, and yelling. And I'm like, I'm hearing all of this, and I'm like, this is just gold, right? Why
Yeah.
are just do exactly what they're saying? Don't even think, just do exactly what they're saying.
Well,
I
two
just
things
wanted
with
you
you
to hear
saying that, Alex. Two things. One, I'm gonna have to stick a balloon in Mina's head because she's been mentioned on the podcast now.
Oh no.
Oh,
So
she's been,
thanks a lot for that. But you gave me ammunition that she wasn't listening to her coaches, who are two of the smartest fighters to ever walk the earth.
But I also want to give her credit, because when I didn't say what she should have done.
Yeah.
I didn't say what you should have, like you should have done this and you should. I didn't say none of that because I don't have no place to do that. But she did listen to them the next day.
yeah.
She absolutely did. Right.
But
So
still,
if she did anything, she listened.
her head is going like this right now, man.
Maybe.
No,
But
she's
but maybe her most successful thing is that she didn't let her head do this.
that young lady is a sweetheart, works super hard, and a huge part of it is because, as she jokes about it, she used to be horrible. Right? I mean, I'm Mina, I'm sorry. Oh, she's talking, she's on here now. Hey, Mina, I'm gonna have to tell a story. She used to tell me that when her friends found out that she was in karate and they would go to YouTube and put in her name, it's a fight on there that's pretty bad.
Oh, I got
Right?
one. I got
And
a
that's,
couple.
yeah, we all do. And
Yeah.
that's her humbly. So
Right.
she's extreme. She's gonna be all right.
Yeah. I
She's
think
gonna
so.
be okay because she had the adversity, and now she can see what hard work and how success builds. So
Yeah. Brett is the one that said he
Well,
thought she was
you
going
know,
to do things this year. On the show, he said that.
she
All
still
right.
has it's the year's young. But wait, I want to stay on that because you mentioned like she used to not be very good. You know what's
Yes.
really interesting? And if I was still running karate schools, I would have Avery in minimum once a year if I could control it, doing seminars minimum. Nobody took a seminar from him and wasn't just over the top excited about martial arts.
Right.
But
well,
what's
you guys
interesting,
hosted him when he was living in Illinois. You guys had
I
him
loved
over
it.
a couple of times.
Loved
So
it.
yeah, you looked out for him. Thank you.
But if we think about this, look at what if you watch what his recent performance, like remember Jeff, when I was telling you, I was like, dude,
He's getting better.
he got so much better. Just even from the last competition we saw him in to just a couple weeks ago, like, whoa, you got wildly better.
Right.
But when we saw him on Victory and in the first parts of Impex, he was having successes, but the techniques were not wide ranging, right? And I would tell students this after they would come after a seminar that he had. They were like, oh my gosh, you can see all the stuff he was doing. I mean, he was so good. I was like, listen, what you got to do is really understand he didn't do all of those moves. He did like 2 moves, right? And that was it. And then he did them so good that it allowed him the ability to add in another and to add in another. And then his range started doing this. And then once we saw him kicking, we're like, oh my gosh, you're kicking offensively and really good. Oh, now you're floating it. Oh, whoa. All right. Threw an axe kick in open weight. No. Threw an axe kick in open weight, looked at me and goes, I know you like that, Alex. I was dying laughing.
Well, as Mr. Randall just said, he works very hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, seriously, he the guy is working a 55, 60-hour a week job. Sincerely.
Yeah.
I have to brag a little bit. He's making a ton of freaking money, though. I'm jealous of that. But he works hard. Now, Alex, it wasn't always like that, right? He'll tell you that when he pledged a fraternity, when he was in college, he was not as committed then as he is now. And part of that too, I think, is having a sister that many think could be the greatest ever.
Yep.
You know, and Morgan. Every time Morgan went to the Diamond Nationals, she won.
Wow.
She never left the Diamond Nationals without a ring.
It's crazy.
Right? She only did 4 diamonds.
Wow. Yeah.
You know,
That's I don't even think people even realize that's
yeah,
crazy.
no, they don't. They
Yeah.
don't. I keep stats like that. My kids don't even know this stuff. But you know, you look at how many Warrior Cups she has. She's won the battle a ton of times, U.S. Open. She had a great career. So that put pressure on Avery too. He shares now,
Right.
you know, because he wanted to be good too.
Yeah.
Damn.
So you know, I'm shucks. I'm blessed.
So
It's awesome.
I think then I guess the only fighters to have that kind of success at the Diamonds would be like her and Nikki.
Trevor.
Trevor's lost Diamonds before.
Oh, I thought you meant how many he's won though. Yeah.
But like to compete at a tournament like that and just not ever know what it feels like to lose in that venue, like, come on now.
It's crazy,
You
right?
know?
Well,
Yeah.
listen, you know, Alex, and I can say this now. She went a couple of years without losing. She
Yeah.
lost the team match.
We all saw.
And with that, I think her first loss might have been at the U.S. Open to Verona. But I remember her losing at the U.S. Open to Verona, walking off the stage, and she said, "Dad, I forgot what this felt like."
Yeah.
You know, now who says that?
Oh
I
my
forgot what that felt like. I was
Right.
like, wow, I never won that much.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what's that like? Like I mean, let's be honest. For your kids to surpass your records, your legacy, your wins. I mean, that's just it's crazy, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's but Jeff, I can say this. I was as surprised as anyone. You know, I watched them develop, and I can think to different points where I said, wow, they're really getting good. You know, but my thing, Morgan played softball through her first year of college.
Okay.
And I loved being softball dad. She was a pitcher, and I loved it. I was in my glory. No pressure on me. Right. I'm just there watching my baby girl throw. But, and I mentioned this to her not too long ago. I think her being a pitcher helped prepare her for karate life.
Oh,
Because you don't see her get stressed much.
correct.
Right?
Oh,
She says back and maintains that the proper demeanor that a pitcher does. Because the pitcher get behind an account, you still have to have that level of intensity. I can think Joe Greenhall's tournament, New England Open, Morgan was fighting Gina Thornton for the Grand. They didn't put the Grand on stage. They were running it off during the day. And it was 2 rounds. After the first round, Morgan was down 4 or 5 points. And she came to me and she said, Dad, I just feel off today. And I said, no, you don't. I said, you're not off. You're still Morgan. She looked at me, she nodded, turned around, went out there and won. Won by, I think, 3. You know, and she, in her seminars, because she does great seminars too, in her seminars, she talks about that about mentality. Right? It's back in. You still have a whole nother round to go. Shoot. That doggone football game yesterday, some team was up 17 at the half and blew it. Right? So you have the right frame of mind, the right type of resilience, you can come back from anything.
It's so true. It is. It definitely is. And you know, like I see this in forms competitors, you know, if their first division doesn't go right, it just completely goes downhill.
Snowball.
Right?
That's right.
Snowball. Or if they drop one that, you know, and for me, it's like, what was your best tournament? For me, one of my best tournaments and that made me grow, it was my last year as a junior. We were at Spartanburg for Rick Lee's tournament, and that was a great one where we had that set match with SES and CJB. And
it was that event?
Yeah, it was that event.
Wow.
I did 12, 13 events. I got second place on all of my events until the last 2. And I would just, you know, I was in that mode of thinking, oh, you know, it's just not going to be, you know, and I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of losing. I went and I got some momentum from winning a division I didn't even do, soft style, and I beat some legit people. And then I took that and I won creative. which that led me to get into grands, and where I beat all those people that beat me
There you go.
to be the last one standing. And to me, that is something I always hold and tell all my people. Okay, I can win 10 first places, but if I lose the grand, it don't matter. If I'm not, like, and the same thing, I can lose all of these and win this one and come back and win and be the last person standing, because I came back and beat all, and so it's that demeanor you got to have. So,
That's
Jeff,
how champions
they say
think.
that in order to have a testimony, you must first have a test.
exactly.
Right?
Yes, sir.
That's something that you should be able to share with whoever comes in your environment from a student standpoint, because that's
sir.
perseverance.
Yes,
That's
sir.
stick to itness, and that's what it's about. I'm mentioning Yasmina and the fact that she wasn't very good. Heck, I was my instructor told my parents to keep their money at home.
Right.
But it's that passion and perseverance, those P's.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, we're getting a lot of stuff. All right. You want to add? I mean, that's a loaded question, but
What is that, Robert?
if you could change anything in Sport Karate Day, what would it be?
More people who kick and punch participating in it. That's what it would be.
Yeah.
More people who kick and punch participating in it. I was the guest speaker at the NASCA banquet at the Bluegrass. Alex remembers. What year was it, Alex?
That you did bluegrass?
No, I was the guest speaker at the banquet. And I mentioned then, I can't remember what year it was. I mentioned then, I said that our competition is going to be BJJ and MMA schools.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we have to tighten it up.
Oh, wait. Was
08?
it 2008?
I can't remember. I've been hitting the head too much.
I think that's what it was.
But we need more people who kick and punch to do what it is that we do and see it as a fabulous activity and for it to be compelling. You have these instructors whose own kids play tennis, they play baseball, they play basketball, but then they say sport karate is no good. That's garbage. Right. So that would really be it. And I'll say this, you have one major organization over in Europe that's stopping their own members from being able to do other organizations' tournaments. That's crazy.
Right.
I know.
That's communism. That's absolutely not. We should be able to, the best competitors should be able to go wherever they want to compete and win.
Right.
So that I would say that, Robert, and truthfully, we're not too far away, as crazy as it sounds, from at one entity being able to run the show if they just up the black belt prize money a little. If you had one entity that offered, let's say, $10,000 grands, where would the good people go?
That's where they would go.
Yep.
And $10,000 is really not a lot of money.
Right.
But it's better than the $1,500 or the $1,000 that they get now.
Right.
So you have that, and you'll be able to get a marketing company to wrap their arms around what it is that we're doing, and you'll have a real sport. We're not a real sport right now.
No.
We're an amateur sport.
Right.
We're recognition.
Do you think because I kind of think we're not really a professional sport. We're also the only sport that only the winner gets money. Do you think it's 10,000 grand, or do you think, hey, 10,000 towards this championship at least to get started and then build it up?
You can sit back and hit a grand for 10,000, 5,000 for a runner up, and two 2,500s. That's just 20 grand.
Right.
But the thing is, how do we become compelling enough? How do we become compelling enough? Because you see, we think too big. We think Nike. We think the really big boys. It's not even about that.
You don't even
need to do that.
You don't need that. You need a strong bottled water company.
Yep.
Right. You need because all of us drink water. Yep. Now the thing about it is there's so many different brands that one brand might want to push their thing forward, but we look at Pepsi Cola. Pepsi Cola knows all. We already know Pepsi. Pepsi's not going to come into sport karate. Coke's not coming.
No.
Okay. Hello.
No, wait, Coach. Do you know the one big sponsor I think actually would make sense? if I've said this on the show a number of times, that would make the most sense would be Domino's Pizza. I know you're looking at me like, why?
No.
Because
I'm just thinking. I
Because what do we all do?
Domino's was founded 45 minutes from here, from where I
But
am.
what do we all do?
Yeah, afterwards.
Yeah.
It's the only thing we can find food. Like, this is the only thing we can get. And every
Right.
city's got one, and everybody knows what it tastes like, and you'll manage it, and it's good. It's good enough, and then you'll have it.
Well, I mean,
I'll tell
look
you
at these
this.
sports- Yeah. I was just
No,
saying, you look at these sports that are niche, niche sports, there still have people who make a living doing it,
Exactly.
It's great. Sports that the person down the street don't even know anything about, but they're
Two
doing
things. Two things. Back when I was still wet behind the ears, another pizza company here, in addition to Domino's, is a pizza company called Little Caesars Pizza. Their headquarters is here downtown Detroit.
Yes, sir.
I sent them a
Sounds like
proposal.
you need to hit
I
these
sent them
pizza
a
places
proposal.
up.
Well, I sent them a proposal back when I was green behind the ears years ago. And of course they never responded. So that that was one idea. But Jeff, you said something that sparked them. What did you just say?
Well, about just it's niche sports. There's a lot of these sports that people don't even know about, that people are making livings doing.
1985. There was a guy here out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, named Mike Yellen. You guys ever hear of him? No, I wouldn't think so. Mike Yellen in 1985 made $1 million playing racquetball.
Excuse me, what?
Yes.
Playing racquetball. He made $1 million playing racquetball. You can look him up. Mike Yellen. He's a racquetball legend. Okay, and that was 85. That was years ago. But
Wow.
the racket manufacturers and the clothes manufacturers were paying him off.
Yep.
They were
Right.
taking care of him. Our situation is such that the individuals who make money off of us like that, they don't really have any incentive to give back, to really give back. You get
Really
free
give back.
uniform or something like that,
Right.
but to actually invest. So if our people aren't investing in us, somebody on the outside looking in, they're going to wonder why.
Exactly.
How come the equipment manufacturers are not sponsoring athletes to that level? How come the uniform manufacturers are not sponsoring athletes to that level? That's the question that outsiders will look at. That,
Right.
and then they're going to look at your website, see how many clicks you have, how many followers you have. This is all about sales.
Yep, it is. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different sports. I mean, just look at I always thought that looking at skateboarding or the X Games and using that as a
Yeah,
catalyst
there could
to
be some parallels there for sure.
to parallel.
Hey, look at what those young boys are doing with adrenaline.
Yeah.
Who knows where that's going to go?
Yep.
Right.
They're smart young men. What'd you say, Jeff?
They're working it.
Yeah.
They're
they
working
are.
it. Yep.
Yeah, the behind the scenes.
I had, when you're bringing up, Jeff, when you're bringing up, like amateur sports that can still make money, it's like 20 years ago, so I can say it. I had an ex-girlfriend who used to date prior to me. She used to date like one of the best curling competitors in the world, right? Which nobody cares about curling. Nobody even wants to admit that they know someone who does curling, right? And he's making a living doing curling.
Yeah.
And you're like, you gotta be kidding me. You just glide
on
your
the
nuts
handball
right
team.
across the ice and you make money doing that.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
wild.
people on the handball team, they make money.
Yes.
Like, it's like, whoa, wait, what? Handball people are watching that? I mean,
Oh,
we can go.
no. Let's look at this. 5 years ago, we never heard of pickleball.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That was the next one I was going to say. Pickleball.
Great.
It's on ESPN everywhere. You have Grand Slam winners going and playing team pickleball, because, hey, I can do this now as I'm retired. I can't play on that. I can do this. And then you got people that never made it to that are the best in the world.
That's right.
Weren't the best at tennis, but now the best at pickleball. So yeah,
Yep.
it's crazy.
Well,
Brent, you're right. The cornhole players do make more, but the thing is this too, though. Understand, it's about bandwidth. There are more people who play and understand the rules of handball or cornhole, understand the rules of pickleball. You know, with what we do, it's so complicated that it's hard for us to watch sometimes.
Well,
right?
and it's
Was
also,
it a point? Wasn't it a point? Blah
Right.
blah 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 blah.
well, and we're so divided. Our
That's
martial
it.
arts in general are just so divided, inherent in the system. You know, I mean, everybody. Okay, well, now I'm going to create my own style. Now I'm going to have this.
That's right.
You know, and it's hard to even explain to people. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to go to this Taekwondo tournament, but here, no, we're doing a different type of Taekwondo than they do, and a different type of ITF than this, and a different. There's so many different. Like, wait a minute, I just thought it was all the same. I thought karate was karate. No, not even Shotokan's all the same. It's you know.
Jeff, that's why we need the separation. That's why we need some prize money or something to create a divide so that people say, okay, this is legitimate.
Right.
You know, this is something that we can follow.
These other sports, the other leagues that are big and growing, that are, let's say like ITF right now, it's really huge and it's growing right now on their sport, but there's no prize money in that. You know, you look at even like the AAU Taekwondo, where, you know, they have 5,000 competitors there, no money there. You know, even let's be honest, most of these WACO tournaments, there's not the prize money.
No money. You are absolutely right.
Yeah. And so that's where it's like, okay, well, now one thing is that us in America and Canada don't get, those countries there pay them to compete. Some of those, you know, like the ITF guys, right? Those countries pay, like, that's their job. They're just like, I'm going to retire to open my karate school. I'm like, wait a minute. It's the opposite way here. I open a karate school. That way I can fund my, you know, and actually say, oh, I'm going for karate tournaments, and write it off that it's all part of your sponsor, your advertising, right?
let me say this, because one of our veterans said the money
Jerry had a good
should have been invested in the sport. Jerry Fontenay, and Jerry is right.
Yeah.
You know, the whole team thing is more ego for the individuals running the team. So I have to agree with Jerry 110%. If the money had been invested more in the event long term, sport would be much better off, because I say long term, the Atlantic Grand Slams, $40,000 cash at each one, but it didn't last long enough.
Yeah, nothing happened.
It didn't penetrate.
That's kind of what you were mentioning when you brought up what Charlie Lee wanted to do.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And Mr. Clifton, I would disagree with you somewhat, because so much of the WACO push is to push the Olympics. One, that ain't happening. And then two, they only take a limited number of weight classes, right? If you look, I think that
it's kind of like Taekwondo, and that your
that's what I was about to say. The last
Olympics, qualify.
With the last Olympics in Taekwondo, you had 32 men and 32 women. That was it.
Yep.
For all of the countries in the world, you had 64 competitors. That's nothing.
No.
And
so that whole Olympic dream, that's garbage.
Well, and then the way that I don't know if it's still this way in Taekwondo. I know, but I know pre censors, it was, you could be the greatest Taekwondo fighter in the world and not make the Olympics because your weight class.
Yes, that's correct. Had to be selected. That's correct.
So if you're blowing people out and like nobody in other countries in your weight class are really even competing or any good, you're not going to go.
Right. Well, and that's why a lot of wrestlers, amateur wrestlers, immediately switched to MMA, because their weight class wasn't in there, you know, and they're some of the best, you know, world champions that we've had, you know, in America, that all of a sudden they were hoping they were, and then all of a sudden, sorry, we're not going to take your weight class this year.
Yeah.
Well, with all this world,
Andrew, you're quite accurate. 10 competitors in the Olympic kata. That's crazy.
Yep.
Well, with all this world competition talk, at one
here we
point,
go. This is where. All right, good. Go ahead.
You got to call and tell us about how this happened, because we're talking about what the WACO was like that you competed in, the WKA that you were a part of, but then this WKC thing.
Yep.
How did this whole thing come about, and when did this happen?
You mentioned WKA. I'm here in Detroit, not too far from Toronto. 1998, I think it was 98, 99, one of them. The WKA World Championships were going to be in Toronto. So for WKA, they didn't have tryouts and things for the most part. They just kind of selected folks. Jim Lantrip, who was president of the WKA at the time for the United States, he called me up and said, Richard, WKA World Championships are in Toronto. Can you put together a team and go and compete? So I thought, sure. So I got some of my students together and we drove to Toronto for the WKA World Championships. I happened to get lucky and win a gold medal, knock on wood. But running the WKA for Canada and also the organizers behind it was John Duvers and Mike Bernardo. And they were the hosts there in Toronto. So Mike is about 90 minutes from me here. He's in London, Ontario. I'm here in Detroit. We're not too far away. So we see each other coming up, quite a bit, competing in the same tournaments. John Duvers happened to be a heavyweight from Canada. So John was him and a guy named Harold Howard were Canada's top two heavyweights. So I fought those guys a lot. And we forged a friendship. So they decided to leave WKA and formed the WKC, and they gave me a call and said, hey, we're starting this new organization, and we'd like you to head it up for the United States.
What year was this?
This was, I would say, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
20
2011, 12.
Around 11 to 12, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So the first World Championships we did was in Ireland, and I had a team of about 40. David Clifton was part of that team, if he's still listening. So we started out then, and now we just expanded. It's grown, and I'm interested in seeing where we can go the next year or two.
He said 2009.
Okay, thanks, Avery. You will remember. You were there.
Oh man. So all right. So let's just kind of explain just that. I mean, just what are some of the things that really like make you love just WKC, and maybe some moments that kind of said, okay, this is what I really want to dedicate my focus to.
Jeff, the whole country versus country thing is so compelling to me. Because so many organizations, everything's alike, right? You have PKC, USKA, NASCA, blah, blah, still quite similar. But when you get to a situation where you have to qualify, it's country versus country, you win a doggone real world championship, they put a gold medal around your neck and they play your national anthem. Right. There are a lot of world champions around here who've never heard the national anthem played in their honor, right. So that and then it's the camaraderie. At the end of the event, just being able to watch people from different teams trade uniforms and that type of thing. And then, being a social media voyeur, I go to different people's pages and I see people from different countries communicating. And I know that was because of their involvement with the WKC. So it's that's fantastic. What I wish that we could do, which is so difficult because of the landscape, I wish we could better penetrate Europe.
Yeah,
right.
I really do. But of course, the landscape there is such that we're pariahs. So right. that's more or less a long shot. But Miss Rhodes, you are absolutely right. Thanks for saying that. Mm-hmm. WKC, the team fighting, country versus country, the parents get involved. Jeff, you and I go to a tournament, we take our students, they're cheering for us, but we go to a world event.
Right.
You have all of your countrymen cheering for you and things. So that's that's really what I enjoy.
I mean,
the relationships that are built there are so cool because you'll become teammates, or maybe if you're not like fighting mates, because you're wearing the same country uniform.
Yep.
You'll start having relationships with people that you've seen for years that you've never really had a reason to have a relationship with or a conversation with. And the WKC experience is really awesome. It's a really unique one. Now, there is one downside that there is a loophole, I suppose, that I wish I would have thought about, but you brought it up. The changing of the uniforms is so cool. But now I don't have a USA uniform.
Why?
Because I only bought one. I should have bought two.
You messed up. Well, guess what?
I know I messed up.
Guess what? I sincerely was in communication with some folks about making uniforms for this year's team today. So we tied some things up today. So, when we open the store, I'll let you know, Alex.
I'll give you my credit card number right
Well, wait a minute.
Andrew's right. See,
are you retired from competition? No, I'm already. Jeff was supposed to be with me this year, and he put me down. So,
I know.
my feelings are hurt there, but I still like the guy. But Alex,
you know what that is, though,
retired?
Coach?
Huh?
I am retired, but the problem is, it's when I realized that once I switched it, and I'm like, oh, dang, I don't got a USA one, and in my head I go, I'll be back.
Right.
You never know. You
No.
never know. You should
That's right.
always treat every opportunity like this is the one to seize. This is it right here.
So I didn't ever exchange when I did WKA. I never exchanged my uniform. I exchanged my warm-ups. That's all.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh no,
That
that's
way I wanted to keep stuff, and everything. But I always had a fighting gi and a forms gi, so I had a little
There you
bit
go.
of.
You have some flexibility.
That's
I
right.
think I have a Polish warm up here and a German one, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
All right,
Man.
guys.
All right. Well, hey, this has been so much fun. Well,
It's
I'm sure we
crazy.
can-
I'm impressed with the number of people who are commenting the thing.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Hey,
sir.
hey, I'm gonna open up a wing of a rehab. We're all gonna be there. And
there's
Stephen
still so
Page,
much.
Drew Christian was one hell of a fighter.
He was.
That
Amazing.
dude could go. I'm sorry, what'd you say, Alex?
There's still so much we didn't get into.
I know. And look at this. Part
I don't
three.
know. I mean, because we had such a long history of impacts that we've got to talk about. We've got to talk about, right? What happened when we switched to the new team, the people you have there, the real depth that you get, because now you'll really start to see it, right? Like Nico started to come into himself now.
Yeah.
And these young kids,
Yeah.
they're no joke.
No.
And I
It's gonna be
just
tough for him.
I gotta hear more. And you know how you said it more. We're addicts. We're just gonna do this all the time.
This will be a special show, huh? You guys are crazy.
What do you
But
guys say?
it's just funny.
Show of
We just-
hands. Do we do a third one? We've never had a 3-episode show. Guys, do we do a third one? Let's see some hands in the air.
I've already got a
Well,
couple.
I'm saying
of
this.
them.
We didn't even ask Coach yet. We're done.
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, I'm just just plug
Putting it
me
out
in,
there.
man. I have issues.
All right, so we got 2 minutes. Let's say we got 2 minutes. We never do very well at this, but Alex doesn't. I'm pretty good at it, but
I know.
I have to tie this. I'm the person who kind of has to tell him to be quiet sometimes, right?
Exactly.
But give me just one moment. I know it's tons, but just a moment that comes right off your top of your head right now that you want to share.
Oh my
That-
goodness.
Yeah, I know that's hard.
It is. It is. Honestly, just it's not one moment, it's a few, thank God. But
Yeah.
just having my kids win major grand championships both at the same tournament.
That's crazy, right? I mean,
Yeah, it is.
who can even think of? I mean, that's
It really is. Just have it multiple times. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's special. And then I told some folks this weekend at a local tournament, I have 11 Warrior Cups in my house.
that's yeah.
That's bizarre to me, who remembers the first one, being at the tournament when they unveiled it, so to speak. And then having won one myself. And also, Morgan just made me think of this. I'm the oldest person to ever win a Fighting Warrior Cup.
That's huge.
That's
How
me,
old were you when you won it?
39.
39.
Wow.
Man.
39. Morgan just reminded me of that. But, those things. So, sport karate's, I've been blessed, man.
Oh,
God God gave it to us. Now, I should have asked for basketball, but you know, then I wouldn't be here right now. We'd be someplace else, you know. But no, it's been a great ride, and thank you guys for indulging me. Thank whatever the audience we had. Thank you.
Yes,
There you go, Mike Bates. We speaking the same language.
Yes, sir.
And Reggie Miller. Yep.
I thought about it's the martial arts version of that as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Well, thank you guys. Jermaine, you're my man. Jermaine Wiggins has a Warrior Cup from my school too.
Yes, he
I love
does.
that dude.
Yeah.
He's
Me
one
too.
cool dude. I like Jermaine a lot. He's one cool dude.
I can
Jamal's
tell you
on
some stories.
All right.
All right.
Hey, Andrew, let me say this though. Morgan won grand when they didn't give away a women's Warrior Cup too.
Yep.
She'd
Both
have
of them.
another one. We should
Yeah.
have 12 here in this house.
Right.
All right, guys. Take care. Thank you for indulging.
If we do a round
sir.
3, guys, it'll be even more exciting. And I'll promise I'll try to be a little bit more calculated and not so sporadic. But this
So,
has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm
May
Alex
my-
Kingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. See you guys.